Turning to new clues about the special counsel's indictment in U.S. versus Donald Trump, which was unsealed Friday and immediately parsed for all the new evidence and the fullest presentation of the case against Trump that we'd ever seen. So as we were poring over these pages in real time Friday with veteran prosecutors like Andrew Weissman and our fellow seasoned journalists, we saw the DOJ's evidence is fortified with insider accounts, a prospect which we knew had been brewing with those reports on critical evidence coming from Trump's own lawyers, a story the New York Times has been following, which was suggested in past legal developments, including Trump attorney Evan Corcoran, who had to testify already. I'm showing you some archival footage here because as recently as Thursday, we were looking at that clue in this case. That was, of course, before the indictment dropped. Then there was that other news we already had, that a judge had found a likely Trump violation of the rules against a client, Trump, using a lawyer to commit a new crime. In other words, Trump had been trying to reuse his tactic of blaming lawyers for his own plots, which is not a state secret. Even if you follow the news only occasionally, you probably recall that's what he did to Michael Cohen, who was his lawyer. And so recently you have lawyers who, like you and everybody else, watch Michael Cohen go to prison, but then those lawyers decided to work for Trump anyway, knowing this is what he does. And now we've been tracking how several of them are now in basically the corner that Cohen was in, legal scrutiny, which has so many recent Trump lawyers, not only in this, but in a whole range of cases, trying to check whether they need their own legal team or at least really copious notes. And there are lawyers who learned Trump did want to do them dirty like he did Cohen, but they pushed back. That brings us to the lawyer you're going to hear more and more about, Trump lawyer Corcoran, who wrote down the facts which now sketch out the key lines in the prosecutor's roadmap. He shed light on why Trump is so upset to learn that if judges see lawyers more as defendants than independent lawyers, those type of lawyers lose their legal privileges, which protect against talking, subpoenas, testifying.
I always used to think that attorneys really had a very high status in life, that when you had an attorney, the attorneys can't be subpoenaed, they can't be summoned to talk.
They usually can't. The X factor here is the client, because a prosecutor would have to show a judge proof that basically there's high cause of suspicion of that exception I talked about, that there's a new crime being committed. The lawyer then can be made to talk about new crimes. And one of those crimes has now been indicted here. That's what's different this week from, say, the middle of last week. We now know the DOJ has indicted Trump and his aide for obstruction crimes and that the lawyer bowed out of the conspiracy to be a part of those crimes. That's why the lawyer's not charged in this new indictment. And we know that Trump pushed the lawyer to hide secret documents. We know that according to the DOJ, Trump and his aide lied to the lawyer and then later, of course, the government. And that's explained in the filing with the reference to Trump Attorney 1, which we here at MSNBC have identified as very likely Corcoran, and that he will be a key witness. It is Corcoran's notes that bust Trump for those things we were all frantically reading to you on Friday, saying things like, I don't want anybody looking through my boxes. I really don't. I don't want you looking through my boxes. And Trump then asking, what happens if we just don't respond at all or don't play ball with them? And trotting out his obstruction of justice plan, saying, wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything here? Isn't it better if there are no documents? Which is a proposed lie because there were documents. Those same notes depict Trump referring to possibly illegal material, which he, for shorthand here, calls, the bad stuff. And again, in secret, he had no reason to think this would ever go to the government or be on TV. He secretly asked, quote, if there's anything really bad in there, we just pluck it out. Now, let me be very clear and as fair as possible. The problem for Donald Trump is not that he asked a dumb question in secret or that he asked about doing something illegal. You can ask a lawyer, can I do crime? Sell heroin, maybe? These are things you can ask. Then your lawyer says, no, crime illegal. Heroin against the law. And it can end there. And you say, okay, well, that's why I asked. That's why I asked. Never mind. And then not do it. The problem for Trump is these exact illegal things that he asked his lawyers about are the things he's now been indicted for. These are the things DOJ now says he did in conspiracy with an aide, and that is backed up by the hard evidence that we've seen, the stacks of boxes. So Trump was not just asking about random options that he didn't pursue. The reason he hid the plan from his lawyer, according to the DOJ, is that Trump realized he didn't have the kind of lawyer he was looking for. According to the Justice Department, Trump wanted his own Saul Goodman-style Breaking Bad lawyer, the lawyer you pursue when what you really need is a criminal.
You don't want a criminal lawyer, right? You want a criminal lawyer.
That might be what some people want. That is, according to the DOJ case, what Trump wanted, a lawyer willing to destroy evidence, a criminal lawyer, the kind of lawyers that we now see under the scrutiny because of their client. Another person who knows his way around the law, Pusha T, famously said, "This ain't really for you. This is for the Goya Montoya who said I couldn't stop, then afforded me all the lawyers." Trump desperately trying to hire more lawyers now. Whether he can afford any of his ex-lawyers just telling the truth about what he did is the threat hanging over this case now.